Today, we're diving into a major shakeup happening within the federal government. The phrase government efficiency has become a buzzword, but under the Trump administration, it's taking center stage. What does it mean for how services are delivered? What's being promised and what is actually possible? Today's story combines ambition with a good amount of controversy. Let's get into it. As the Trump administration prepares to take office, one of its initiatives is government efficiency. So much so, they created their own independent commission called DOGE, because apparently GAO and OIG, the Government Accountability Office and the Office of Inspector General, that wasn't enough. So they need another layer of audits towards federal agencies. Now, it's not just Elon Musk and Vivek. They're leveraging hundreds of people from all corners of the country in order to find a solution to eliminate fraud, waste, and abuse. And in addition to fraud, waste, and abuse, they're also looking at overhauling outdated IT systems, streamline federal operations, and tackle workforce inefficiencies. Their approach includes some big, bold ideas. Some of them are practical, like modernizing the IT systems in federal agencies. Others are controversial, like getting rid of 75% of the federal workforce. That's firing over 1 million people. What does this mean for you and me? It means uncertainty. So efficiency in the government is essentially viewed as how it can serve the population, the American population. How well can it serve it from an IRS perspective? How well can it do it from a VA perspective, right? Let's talk about a term you may know. It's called CX, customer experience. Now, in the past, customer experience was horrible. It was almost a synonym. Government customer service was like a synonym for terrible, like horrible. It was all the reasons why the private sector does everything better. Is because if you look at the customer service, there were huge wait times. But right now, we're at a 7-year high when it comes to customer service in the federal government. Let's take the Department of Veteran Affairs, for example. There was a public scandal in 2014 where there was this secret wait list. And the whole reason this secret wait list existed was to hide the fact that they were not able to meet the target of 14 days. The target they were given is, let's give care to these veterans in 14 days. They couldn't do it. They didn't want to tell the truth, so they had a little secret going on. This secret wait list, it caused people to die. It was a huge scandal. Congress got involved. Whistleblowers finally blew the lid off of this mess, and it led to resignations, FBI investigations, and new laws. Fast forward to today, veterans are reporting record high trust scores. It has increased by 30%, thanks in large part to the Veterans Experience Office. They have reduced the need for veterans to make an average of 78 calls to get something accomplished. Can you imagine calling 78 times just to get some information about your health records or something about your benefits? That's what was happening. That has been dramatically scaled back. And it's not just the VA. The IRS has been making efforts as well. They've consolidated over 200 forms and they launched online filing systems for 12 states. They're making interactions with the government faster and a lot less painful. Now let's take a quick pivot and look at DOGE. Let's look at President Trump's effort for efficiency. And we're going to see that Vivek, one of the leaders, is on an interview and he's discussing the way that he would eliminate a large percentage of the workforce, like 50% or 75%, because he wanted to cut it in half the first time. Then he wanted to cut that half in half. And how would he do it? Would he do it by looking at performance reviews? Would he do it by looking at RIF protections, maybe veteran status? Because we have a lot of people in the military that serve in the federal government. No, he had a better idea. His idea, such an innovative idea, the idea was to look at the last digit of the Social Security number. And if it was odd, then we'll just go ahead and terminate them. Now, he said this was a thought experiment, but the fact that those words were uttered in an interview that was seen by over 1 million people, it has to make you think, why would he say that? That sounds naive to say that. I know he's not naive, so why would you say that? Many people argue that cutting government jobs, it's not reform, it's disruption. We have federal agencies right now that are in pain because they have staffing issues. Look at the FAA. They cannot get enough air traffic controllers. Can you imagine one air traffic controller trying to juggle around a dozen flights? Does that sound safe? Would you want to get on those flights knowing we have a shortage of air traffic controllers? Then look at the EPA. They have staffing issues. What about your local water supply? What if it was contaminated with some sort of poison? Wouldn't you want the EPA there? Probably if it happened in your own town, right? FEMA. Look at FEMA. They've been through the ringer over the last 12 months, responding to 50 major disasters from hurricanes, floods, wildfires. They're struggling with a shortage. The SSA has staffing issues. What if your grandmother didn't get her Social Security check? Less people means there's less customer service when it comes to benefit questions. It also means more errors. You're supposed to get $1,500 and you only get $150. That was an error. Why didn't someone catch that? Well, we don't have the people for quality assurance. The people are not here because we had to reduce the agency by 50% or 75%. Aside from staffing, one of the most persistent issues in federal government that I can attest to is silos. People operate without being aware of what their neighbors are doing. So you're in one agency, in one office, and you don't know what's going on in the other office. It's like the left hand doesn't talk to the right hand. It's one of those type of situations. And then there's funding. If you look at the IRS, they recently had $40 billion just chopped away at their budget as they're trying to do modernization. So that's a huge setback for any federal agency. But despite all that, we would be foolish to ignore the main mover when it comes to efficiency. What's going to cause efficiency? It's going to come down to two letters, A and I. Artificial intelligence. From predictive analytics to automated repetitive tasks, AI is being tested across federal agencies to boost speed, accuracy, and responsiveness. We're going to start seeing AI in call centers to handle routine inquiries, consolidated digital service platforms, and real-time performance monitoring dashboards. The next 4 years will probably redefine how government works. The question is it for the good or will it be for the bad? Now, if there's service disruptions, there's going to be chaos. People are going to be upset. I don't think most average Americans realize the impact that a lot of these agencies have in a good way. I'm not talking about breaking news, the FBI is corrupt. I'm not talking about stuff like that because a lot of that is, hyperbole. I'm talking about real world impacts. I'm talking about veterans getting the care that they need, the new PACT Act that was passed, the FDIC insuring your bank accounts, the SEC, the Security Exchange Commission, ensuring that there isn't widespread fraud happening within the markets. There's a lot of moving pieces that not everyone sees or appreciates. But we're going to have to wait and see for a lot of this stuff. Now, if you're still interested in getting a federal government job, it could be a very competitive process. You probably have a lot of questions on your mind about the federal hiring process, about different GS grade. What does that even mean? How do the interviews go? Well, I did a live stream recently, answered over a dozen questions. A lot of these questions could be on your mind. If you're interested in that, I want you to check this video out next. If you would like to download an example federal resume, check out the links in the description below. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.